executing the game plan.
The effort of everybody switching on to him, knowing their game plan, and
I'm just following the game plan.
Execute the game plan, So when you simplify the game, it makes it easier for your players, and I think that's what Ime did.
Clearly they're loading up on him, sending bodies to him, being physical with him.
They playing 2 or 3 guys on me sometimes when I'm off the ball. They, mucking up actions when I run off stuff. I see Horford leaving his man to come over to hit me sometimes. They just playing 2 or 3 guys hit me wherever I go.
The Celtics push, bumped, hit, and made Kevin Durant's life miserable on and off the ball in the 4 games that they matched up in the first round sweep of the Celtics over the Nets. Any action on or off the ball was met with a player in front and then a player bumping him, as Al Horford does in this scenario. Anytime they ran any of their favorite post-up sets for KD, anytime they set a cross screen, there was a player waiting there in front, ready to absorb contact, then another player there to hit and bump KD off the ball, as you can see Horford doing here. They also would top block or deny any pin down action and force Kevin Durant away. Then as he cut away, you see bodies. Tice gets a touch on him here. Horford gets a touch on him there. The Celtics were just constantly reminding Kevin Durant that there was always going to be a defender there waiting for him and making him think about the physical and irritating contact he had to deal with throughout the whole series.
We're more of the same. We're making it tough. Doing our work early. A lot of those deflections you guys spoke about or steals that we got were, being in denial, being body to body, pushing the catches out.
They forced Kevin Durant to catch the ball further out than normal. Instead of catching up in the mid post or in the deep post, they would fight and force the catch a little bit just inside the 3-point line with a little bit of pressure, making sure that he had no clean and easy looks. And then the nearest defender would sag and clog any driving lanes to his left. Even though he'd get off some clean jump shots, the idea here is to force him to catch the ball further out than he would normally like, and then pressure on the ball and make sure he was uncomfortable with any other actions, like a secondary help defender coming or a swipe on the ball from Grant Williams, always making him feel that contact and fighting him in the post. Of course, some of these led to fouls, and Udoka talked about that in some of the post-game press conferences, but he said he was okay with living with some of the fouls because of the aggressive nature it provided and helped the Celtics' mentality of always being physical on Kevin Durant.
Like I said, taking up that airspace, or you can't get too comfortable and try to speed him up a little bit and throw some different looks at him.
Taking away airspace essentially just means a lot of ball pressure and not allowing him to remain comfortable, denying him off the ball, making him feel you off the ball, and then when he does get the ball, press up as high as you possibly can on him so he always feels uncomfortable and can't get to his spots in a clean manner. While this led to some blow-bys and some easy baskets, this also forced Kevin Durant into tough scenarios and led to turnovers and sloppy passes. The ball pressure here from Grant Williams is a great example of crowding space so you can't rise up for the 3, and then cutting off the driving angle, a good swipe here, and it leads to the turnover. Tatum here, one-on-one defense, just crowding space a little bit more, and then gets the push-off charge call as Kevin Durant drives, just always remaining up on him and not allowing him to feel comfortable with the ball in his hands. This was also useful when the Celtics had the least best matchup on Kevin Durant. So here, Derek White, who's a good defender, has to press up on KD because he's just too small and Kevin Durant can shoot over him. In another situation where Tice got switched onto Kevin Durant, and you can see him really forcing up on Kevin Durant's right hip, forcing him to his left where the help is going to be at the nail, and ultimately forcing KD into tough shots and tough decisions. Although these did lead to some foul scenarios because of this crowding up in landing zones, you can see that the effect it had was just frustration and not allowing him to get comfortable and settle into the game. Boston Celtics switching scheme, where they can switch 1 through 5 and then zone up on ISOs, is what makes their defense elite. You can see here Tatum and Smart both in the gaps when Horford switch on KD. So when that ball pressure and crowding space comes and KD hits Horford with a mean crossover here, Tatum is in the gap and is able to help and get him getting the steal. Normally you see teams more hugged up on the corners, but since they don't really respect the shooting of the other nets and want to focus on stopping KD, they're going to load up in the gaps. Here we can see the switch on the high side here from Pritchard. Good ball pressure again from Tatum, takes to any easy passes. Tatum then switches on to Kyrie, and we're going to get Grant Williams switching on to Kyrie after, so you get basically a triple switch here. Grant Williams is going to pressure up on Kyrie. You're going to see Derek White end up in the gap, Pritchard sagging off in the gap. Kyrie takes a pretty tough shot he could make, but Grant Williams does a good job contesting. Another example of them switching everything, triple switch up here up top. Kyrie's going to drive baseline, and then we get a baseline help from Rob Williams, which forces the Kyrie turnover. Helping with length is key.
Did a good job of making me see bodies.
Offensively, we want to have bodies on them at all times.
We have to, make it tough. We have to show them a crowd.
So we've looked at them sagging off some of the non-shooters. Tatum is a great example of that here with Brown in the corner, helping Kyrie drive, sags off, and then when KD gets the ball, he's going to sit at the nail and basically clog up any driving lanes on Kevin Durant, something that Bruce Brown noted in his presser.
I think they're just packing in. Whoever's on the nail, they're forcing the middle, and whoever's on the nail is just standing there.
The defensive system is going to pressure physical on KD, force him to make tough catches, and then when he does catch it, the nearest player is going to be in help. So Derek White here is going to be in help, fakes a trap, stunts at KD. Grant Williams does a good job closing out to the next one here, ends up getting the ball back to KD for a really tough contested two. But that's the idea of their help, is to make Kevin Durant see bodies and see that there's no real driving lanes for him to go. Smart is going to, again, pressure up on KD here, make him drive into help. Tatum's going to sit almost at the nail in the gap, ends up getting a deflection, disrupts the play here. A good example of Tatum ignoring Brown and staying at the nail is right here, where he basically jumps the drive of Kyrie, ends up forcing a turnover here with Marcus Smart. And then the next example we see here, KD is going to drive into the lane, and you're going to see three guys basically collapse on him at the same time, with Tatum, Horford, and Brown all putting pressure on him, just making him see bodies and not allowing him to feel comfortable driving into the...
When a guy's going on a hot streak like that, we're going to make other guys beat us. And focus on these guys, and we're taking risks and making other guys beat us, and we're going to live with something. That's what we'll live with over Durant and Irving going off.
The Celtics can play this defense because they were focused on making anybody but KD and Kyrie beat them. Horford is guarding Bruce Brown right now. He's going to sag off, tag the roller. Jaylen Brown is then going to stunt at Bruce and then recover. Horford switches off onto Curry. As Curry probes, Smart does what he does and sells calls, gets an offensive foul called here to get the ball back. Another example of that here, where you can see basically just no respect here for Bruce Brown. Grant Williams tags and bumps Kyrie, similar to KD, cuts off the drive, walls up, and it ends up being a turnover. Bruce Brown ignored, three players on KD, keep the play moving. They get the ball into Kevin Durant at the elbow. Tatum does a good job here pressing up like we talked about. Smart is going to get into the gap at the nail, so if there's a middle drive, he's there to help. Ends up being a good deflection here played by Smart, getting his hands on the ball. Bruce Brown wasn't the only player that did this too. Blake Griffin, if he picked and popped or if he rolled, they basically ignored him too. Two on the ball, and Kyrie here. He flips to Blake on the pick and pop. No closeout, no worry, short. Celtics go and play offense. With those core ideas in place, the Celtics had to give KD and Kyrie different looks. Here we see Horford and drop, but still making KD play in a crowd with three players around him. KD comes off the ball screen here, ends up getting a deflection. Watch Marcus Smart as he's in the gap, stunt, and then recover. That forces KD to hesitate just a little bit. Horford does a good job being at the level, contests with his hands, ends up getting the steal. They will switch Tice every now and then against Kyrie, which did not work. And so what they did was they made the adjustment. And when Tice was switched next onto KD, they ended up trapping it. So Smart's going to stay and come for the little blitz, forcing the Nets to play 4-on-3, but denying Kyrie. So they're going to only make Brown, Dragic, or Claxton beat them. They end up getting a Dragic missed three. Another look they did was just straight up switching Horford, then blitz as Durant starts to get into his rhythm dribbles or his drive. Smart blitz Durant here. They kick to Patty Mills in the corner, end up getting a foul call, but you can see the philosophy of taking the ball out of their hands. Of course, they played single coverage. They allowed their elite defenders to try to guard Kevin Durant. He ended up missing some post coverages one-on-one, but he'd also make them. You can see the same exact play here on Brown both times. He ended up missing the first one, making the second one. And then when he was in rhythm, they would throw different looks like traps. You see Tatum and Williams here both trapping KD, getting the ball out of his hands in the post, and then rotating afterwards. And they didn't even trap off the same player or spot each time. Here we see Rob Williams is going to trap off of Blake Griffin. Grant Williams is going to close out to the next threat, Patty Mills, and forcing Blake to shoot. He ends up missing the three. That's a win for the Celtics defense. And they also played almost like a 2-3 zone, or zoned up whenever KD posts up. So you can see the 2 guys up top and the 3 guys low look like a zone. Bruce Brown ended up getting a floater. Grant Williams recognizes it, makes the adjustment next time, and plays more of a man coverage on Brown, zoning up in the middle, and then not allowing him to get an easy look off. All of this combined into an elite defensive effort from the Boston Celtics. It didn't always work, it didn't always have success, but when you play superstars and the best offensive players in the NBA, you have to limit them, not stop them. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I look forward to doing more of these. I look forward to doing more playoff games. If you did enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I look forward to doing more.